Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
So,
got it.
Everybody, if you didn't know, it's Len Cooper's birthday today. Say hi.
I turned 2010 today, man. 2010. So
if you go back and you look at stuff from 2010, like I was looking at inauguration photos of Obama and the transition between him and Bush. I was looking at it on social media or something, and just to see it, the pictures look
so much, right?
The pictures look so old. It looks like you're looking at stuff from the 90s. It's like, oh my gosh, right? But Obama looks like a kid standing next to Bush. Like there's a scene where Bush and him are walking next to each other and they almost have identical ties and suits on.
Yeah.
But low-key, Bush Jr. looks like the adult there and Obama looks like a child. Like it's crazy to see it. It's like, and then to see how Obama is today, you're like, dang, it's a drastic difference on how the White House changed him.
Yeah.
The White House changed him. I swear, you know what's going to be crazy? Donald Trump's hair gets blonder and thicker when he leaves the White House. Where most people get more gray and lose hair when they go to the White House. Like, when you see them all, like any person that ever...
We should sponsor this segment by Bosley.
Or Just for Men.
That's right. That's right. This section brought to you by Bosley and Just for Men.
You could do this. I'm not only a client. I'm not only a paid actor. I'm also a client.
That's right. That's right, man.
Well, it's good to be back to you today, Len, on this Martin Luther King Day today. Happy Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. King Day. Obviously, it is a very important day if for American history, anyways, to acknowledge obviously the suppression of a group of individuals, an ethnic group of individuals, obviously in America, and how important that is to recognize that, not just to continue, with that type of sentiment, but to remember the actions and remember the oppression, simply because the most important thing for remembering anything like that is not to give it attention, but to give it so that we understand the patterns and the habits so that we can avoid it happening again, right, in the future. Because if you don't remember history, then that never happened. That never happened to black people. Black people were never slaves in America, right? And that's where people lose track of things, where they go, look, oh my gosh, slavery wasn't invented in America, but it definitely was a part of American history. And we can't forget what allowed us as a country to do it.
And I think to that point, you bring it up. It's a really good point, because what today signifies is the importance of fighting for a right that everyone should have. And sometimes when you fight for that right, sometimes you encounter resistance. Well, all the time you encounter resistance. And certainly Martin Luther King wasn't the first to do it. Frederick Douglass even said that no change in power comes without resistance. Those weren't his exact words, but that's essentially the sentiment. And so in any endeavor to have situations better, whether it's civil rights or working conditions or rights for anybody, sometimes you have to struggle and you have to resist. And, so today is a good way to remember the importance of that. And so I appreciate you bringing that up, man. Go ahead.
I was going to say absolutely, but I'm going to let you go first, because it's probably going to be a little bit softer of a landing than what I was going to say. So I don't want to get straight to the...
No, I was gonna jump right over to ICE, man. I was going to say, speaking of resistance and fighting for rights, considering everything that's been going on in Minnesota with ICE and this increasing tension that you and I have been talking about, has anything happened that's made you reflect on what's been happening? What's been your overall feeling about the nature of the protests, the actions of ICE, the types of resistance that's been happening, and the other people within ICE saying, you know what? I don't know if we're doing the right thing. And other people saying, I don't really know if I really want to be a part of this, because, police and law enforcement were there to be the good guys, and I feel like we're the bad guys now. And so there's been some pushback with regard to even joining them. So where are you at with everything?
I think it's fascinating. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And we're going to talk about things that I think today we're going to talk about a couple of things that we're doing personally to improve in 2026.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to end the month of January without talking about that and specifically mentioning it on the podcast, just simply because that was a huge part of my life in coming up professionally. And I know it was hard. It was a huge part of yours where that was always at the forefront. We were lucky enough to have very good mentors that, that taught us certain things like that, and I think that that's just a good thing. But for me, one of the biggest things is that I find fascinating is just being an observer and just observing what's actually going on. And one of the best, I was reminded today in just watching stuff today, Len, and then watching stuff over the weekend, I was reminded today on how, today we put a lot of hate on the internet. And I don't even say the internet. I'd say the internet is probably what we would describe as something that, in the beginning when the internet came, oh my God, the internet, because the internet was fun and it was awesome and there was just resources and it was all these great things. I would say more so now that it's like not the internet. I'd say more so it's like social media now, right? Because social media is a byproduct, obviously, of the internet, but I feel like social media has taken on its own identity now where it's really not the internet.
100%.
You know what I mean? I think there's a difference between the internet and social media. Do you see that difference, or am I just kind of
100%? Yeah.
And now
going
the third
on
player's coming to the party.
Going on the internet and searching information. Yes. Going on social media is wondering how other people feel about certain things, being influenced by the way in which people view the world, and all of those things. And so you're absolutely right. It's taken on a life of its own.
And you can get even deeper because there's some purists who would say, well, Google's not the internet, right? There's even a more raw version of the internet that you rarely get to see access to. And I think the third player, we're seeing the third character or the third guest at the party come in, and that's AI. And that's going to be a totally different thing, I think. So you're going to see AI, you're going to see social media, and then you're going to see the internet. And the internet's going to be like where the OGs hang out, like the raw, unfiltered stuff go, right? Mm-hmm. And I think AI, AI sources kind of from both of those. AI is pulling from social media and the internet because AI only knows what AI is told, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you're like, well, AI is learning on its own, but it's like, that's a paradox.
It's a data synthesizer right now, sure.
Yeah, how can AI know more than what is known of the known universe than of known of the, right? So it's like, it's just, I don't want to get into that, but I think it's fascinating, Len. I think it's absolutely fascinating because when you go back, this is one of the best things I think about the internet. The internet has the receipts of everything. The internet never forgets, and the internet has the receipts. And when you look at Bush Sr., when you look at Obama, and you look at Clinton, and you look at Trump has had the least amount of deportations out of any of those presidents. Has had least amount of, so far, has had, and by the way, he is on his second term, and he's still grossly not even close to any of his competitors. He's like 1.5 or 1.8 million or something to that effect, or billion, whatever the number is, 1.5 million, 1.8 million. And his competitors are in the double digits.
Okay.
So he's not even close. So Trump has the least amount of deportations out of any president of that I just mentioned. Bush Sr., Clinton, Obama, and Trump. Trump has the least amount of deportations and the least amount of ICE activity. In fact, I didn't know this, but Holman, the guy who's in charge of, he's not DHS sector. What is he charge of? What is Holman? He's the brash guy, the big brash guy, right?
Is he the border czar?
He's the border czar, right?
Yeah.
Did you know Obama awarded him the highest presidential administration medal that you could be awarded?
I did not know that.
During Obama's ICE raids and Obama's deportation agenda. So I think it's fascinating to see this right now. And the reason why I say it's fascinating is because under Obama, I keep forgetting the names here, Obama, Bush Sr., and Clinton, there were no protests and no riots. But yet under Trump, there's protests and riots. So I think it's just a fascinating thing to see. And what's crazy is that CNN was doing tag-alongs in 2016 with ICE agents saying, look at them, they're going out early to catch these illegals in Chicago. because they got to do it early. And this is the day of the life of an ICE agent, like promoting it. I just find it fascinating that today it's a totally different narrative, but it makes sense to me why it happens this way. And it makes sense even more when we talk about a little bit about other things that are going on, because I think the Greenland thing is fascinating too. We're going to talk about that, but I think it's absolutely fascinating to see that. And that's just the biggest thing that has stuck with me, because it's like, why does Trump have all this pushback about immigration and deportation when he's deported the least amount of people, but yet is receiving the most amount of hate for it? It just makes zero sense to me. So from a pragmatic standpoint, I just find it fascinating, but then I get it because it's just this love affair with the dismantling of all the cartels. Trump is dismantling all the cartels and they're all angry about it. In the media, the legacy media is one of those cartels, and the legacy media for decades has been protecting the powers that be, whether they're Republican or Democrat. Bush Sr., Clinton, Obama, all of them. I think it started to really get weird again when I think it, and also too, to back up, to something we talked earlier, and I'll throw it back over to you, because we were talking about when was the last time the United States was successful at a war. The Gulf War was the last time we were successful at a war. We went in there and that was under Bush Sr. And I think that's when the United States started to shift a little bit and lose. And that's when wokery, I think, was starting to take over. Wokery took over when Bush Sr. left office, I think. And that was the last old guard of the old United States working order, which came down obviously through the lineage of Reagan and then through Eisenhower and all of those ones before it that came. So that is when the United States turned into the wokery of wokery, which is what we're seeing now. It started in the early 90s. I know that's a lot, Len, but just I didn't want to come. I wanted to dig deep on it because it's like, how do you explain that? I'm curious to know, because he's not doing anything different than any other president done. Oh, he's just violent about it. I'd rather know what I'm getting than not what I'm getting. Anyways, I just find it fascinating. I find it fascinating, but at the same time, I've been in the streets in a lot of metro areas since ICE has been deployed, and it feels safer to me.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So on the one hand, I agree that Trump is the president that has changed the course of saying the things that other people won't say out loud. So he's definitely that guy. Now, when you talk about the fact that he has the least number of deportations, you said it as if that's a good thing. And so he ran on this idea of increasing the amount of deportations, considering all of the negativity that he says that, the rapist and the bad guys are coming from all of these other countries. But it's so interesting that typically those countries that he points to are typically countries that are considered less than. But that's another conversation for another day. That's not what we're here to talk about. Him talking about deportations and the way that he's going about it, the main difference is that he's using ICE in a way where they're weaponized to be combative and confrontational. Now, there's always been a fox, and even though during the Obama era, when the deportations took place, Fox had ample opportunities to cover the fact that there were deportations. But here's the problem, Chris, is that Fox was okay with all of the deportations that were taking place. So they had no gripe about it. And so if they were really about, and I'm talking they being Fox and legacy media that is for this idea of deportation. If they were really about the way in which humanity was treated, they could say, look, we like the fact that Obama is deporting people, but the way in which he's doing it is wrong. He's putting people in these concentration camps. These agents are confrontational, combative. There was nothing about that. So one of two facts are true. either Obama and Clinton did it better where it wasn't as confrontational, or Fox missed an opportunity and they failed to cover because it didn't fit their narrative. Their narrative is that we want fewer people coming into our borders. And if they're talking about a Democratic president who's actually effective at their job, it goes against the whole narrative. So here's what's happening. You have ICE and you have the National Guard that's being deployed by a president. And what's happening is that people who are put in office or put in these jobs to support the American people and the citizens, what's happening is there's all of this confrontation. And so what that tells me is that he being Trump has not been as effective and enacting the promises that he said he was going to do. Because to me, I think, look, there's no secret about the fact that he was planning on deporting large numbers of people. So we shouldn't be surprised about that. I think what needs to be done better, unless the coverage just wasn't there, is the nature in which people are being identified. Because right now what's happening is you have American citizens being profiled, and people who may look Latino or may look to be of the racial profile of the target of ICE, and then they're masked, and how they go about it, if it makes us feel like we're in more of a police state. So if these operations were happening behind the scenes and they weren't on video, and the interactions of these agents weren't as confrontational with people who aren't the bad guys, then I don't think there'd be as much of a backlash. So he's just gone about it wrong, or Fox didn't do their part when Clinton and Obama were in office to cover all of the atrocities that were happening. I don't know. Either way, there's a problem.
Well, I could see that. I could see where you're coming from. But my argument against that would be a few things, Len, and this is it. I don't think Fox would want to report on it because maybe it shines a positive light on somebody, and maybe that's why they don't want to report on it. But then I'm like, okay, well, if we want to argue at that point and Trump's not doing a good job, Obama obviously knew, and obviously Bush Sr. knew, and Clinton knew that was a good thing. And most Americans have never wanted an overburden of immigration. And I want to be clear on what I mean by immigration and deportation. So I'm going to clear that up.
Illegal immigration.
So maybe they did that. And they reported false numbers, because who can even trust if Clinton's numbers and Obama's numbers are even correct anyways? We can know, right? But I don't think that's the issue at all. I think what the problem is that Bush and Trump is just doing a very good job of sorting out those people. And by the way, he doesn't want to get rid of everybody and anybody who's Latino or whatever, all that stuff. I think that's the media scaring people. It's very simple. I think he knows what the American people want. And that is, dude, if you are not a net positive to the country, and you're an immigrant here and you're not being a net positive, you have no right being on social programs for this long. If you're an immigrant here and you're illegal and you're not providing a net positive, like, you have no business being here. Then don't. And that's what the problem is that illegal immigration, where people do not provide a net positive to their communities, they got to go, dude. They got to go. Nobody's going to argue against that, and that's what Trump's saying. Look, if you're here illegally and you're not even providing a net positive to your community, I'm sorry, you got to go. You got to go. That's okay. What it is. And so lastly, to just kind of close it up, I think it has also to do with the fact that, if you look at the way ICE agents were dressed in the videos going back to 2016 CNN videos, they were dressed the same way. They were in the same tactical gear, rifles, all that stuff. So they were dressed and looked just as aggressive to me in 2016 during Obama's, presidency, during his watch, during his administration, as they were, I think, today.
I'd like to get some footage to see, because I don't remember, because
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I'm not, and I'm certainly not here to blindly just suggest that they didn't have the face coverings, because I really haven't heard a lot of conversation about them having guns and all of that. It's covering up of their faces. And so I
get you.
Yeah, and I would give the same amount of energy if that did happen under Obama and Clinton, with ICE agents covering their faces, because I just don't like the idea of law enforcement concealing their identities, because typically
you're absolutely right.
But typically, we're able to talk to the officers and get their badge numbers and things like that. And so if that in fact were the case, I definitely want to find some video footage of that.
I can send it to you. I can send it to you.
Yeah, please.
What I think is a better question, Len, now that you brought that up, because I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking about it, is that maybe the bigger research is that do we go back and look? Because I don't think it's just the media's fault. It's never one thing, right? It's never one thing that's the cause of a big problem, which is what we're seeing right now, which is this lawlessness, this anarchiness, this pushback against this, right? Maybe this didn't exist at the scale that it exists in America today, but it is rampant, where you could go and see the exposés of people exposing career protesters.
I'm going to tell you what I believe it is.
People that get paid $70,000 to $80,000, sometimes $100,000 to go out and professionally protest and create problems for ICE. So
if that's true, I am not a fan of that at all.
Okay, it is true. It is,
and true. I'm not a fan.
It's crazy true.
100%.
Just like now, you see Nick Shirley, the daycares, and they try to debunk, maybe he was lying about that and and the timing. You know what he's doing now is Nick Shirley now is exposing all these transportation companies that are listed as transportation companies in Minnesota, but are not. They're money service companies. So these companies are listed as transportation companies. He's going there and going, where's the transportation company? It's not. They're laundering money. Did you know the airport in Minnesota, it's the 17th largest airport in America. It's 10x the amount of cash leaving that airport than Atlanta, the busiest airport in America.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to put a bow on this ICE thing,
please,
because that's a different conversation, and I think it deserves the amount of research and energy, because to me, any type of fraud, regardless of who it's perpetrated by, is wrong, and it should be called out. So I want to be on record for that.
Here's my issue, Len. At the end of the day, too, Len, before you say that, too, it's one thing that this all causes. It's another form of division.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest challenges that Trump has, and what's infected negatively his administration, is, you talk about division. When you demonize a group of people, it creates a backlash, and it creates a visceral response. So when you say, these people, their countries are hellholes, and, these people are, they're just the worst of the worst. They're animals and stuff like that. When you use words like that to take away their humanity as a group. Now, when you talk about an individual, talk about what he or she did wrong, but using phrases like, the left is domestic terrorists and things like that, that also stokes the fire of division. And so one of the reasons why you and I really feel strongly about this podcast, I know I can speak for you freely on this, is because you and I are very divided in terms of our perspective on different issues. We vehemently disagree with each other, but yet we're still able to have this civil conversation. Why? Because we take the time to listen to each other, because we respect each other. We like each other. And even though we disagree, we don't have to go and do clickbait conversation, so we can only bring in a group of people that agree with with us, so that now we have to, create this whole echo chamber. No, we're having a platform where half of the people are going to disagree with everything that comes out of one of our mouths, right? For the most part. And so I think, but at the same time, we don't demonize each other. I don't ever say your take is dumb. You don't ever say my take is dumb. We can just agree to disagree and move on. And I think what's happening so much more than I've ever seen it, Chris, is this divisive conversation on the left and on the right. There's not one party. They both do it. It's a nasty pigsty of conversations. And I feel that both of them feel like they have to do it because one side is playing dirty and both are playing dirty, but they call the other playing dirty. And if one gets clean and they start to act in a way where they go high in their rhetoric, they're going to get slaughtered. And so now it's this race to the bottom. And I think it's really bad for the direction of the country.
Yeah, I think nobody knows how to have proper discourse.
Yes, I agree.
And again, I think it goes back to the fact that, again, we have an education problem in this country and no one is teaching and educating children about civics. Mm-hmm. What we're seeing today in the streets is basic civics. This is basic civics. The United States federal government has the duty, not the right or the responsibility to clean up the streets and control immigration in the country. And then you've got, and you're absolutely right, Len, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Look, Trump should take the higher ground. But the problem, too, remains still is that the opposition, and you can name names, some are worse than others, they don't play by the rules that you just described, which is don't say nice, don't demonize, don't say things. You know, the Maxine Waters, Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, all these guys are guilty of doing the same. Crockett is nasty, dude. That is a nasty woman. She is nasty. Ilhan Omar is
but it's on both sides. But
she just
put
called
the same energy on both sides. They're both
absolutely.
Yeah,
she called a reporter
both
a
sides
retard.
are guilty.
Ilhan Omar called a reporter on the steps of Capitol Hill a retard. If someone on the right would have called someone a retard, Len, a retard. Well, that word doesn't carry weight anymore. So you're absolutely right.
But they do the same thing, bro. Like she's like, the person that shot Charlie Kirk is some tranny, and like you hear it on both sides. And so I think we both have a responsibility to call out both sides because they're both guilty. Now, this is what I believe fundamentally. I believe there is Here's the issue that I had with politics pre-Trump. The issue that I had with politics is that there was a lot of doublespeak and people didn't say the truth. And it was, like you hear this term, they're being a politician, because politicians don't tell the truth and they have a really bad reputation of that. And so that was one extreme. I think what Trump did is he brought the other extreme, which was going way overboard and doubling down on things that were taboo before. And so I have a problem with both of those polar perspectives. I think there needs to be something in the middle where, one, you say it like it is, you say what you mean what you say, don't mince words, and at the same time, you shouldn't be demonized because you do that. But then on the other hand, you should not speak so badly about large groups of people in terms that are, that push them down and suggest that they're less than. And I think using that rhetoric is a problem. And I think both sides, they need to clean that crap up because we gotta get better. And so I hope that you and I can continue to model with each other. And as our platform gets bigger, that other people can recognize like, hey, have political discourse, talk about the things that are uncomfortable and don't point the finger at somebody. Cause like I sent a text to somebody and I got a reply back and it was like, you're making judgments based on what it is that I'm saying because you place me in this box, but I don't fit in that box that you're placing me in. And so like when we have conversations, Chris, you don't automatically put me in a box. When I listen to you, I don't automatically put you in a box. Where we disagree, we talk about it, we call it out, and then we either say, you know what? I agree to disagree. Let's move on to the next topic. But I don't say, oh yeah, you're one of those righties and you don't call me one of those lefties. You know, that's not rhetoric that's uplifting, and it's not rhetoric that's helpful. It does not make your position better, or it doesn't make my position better if I were to do it to you. So,
I know, Len, we can go on and on. We're out of time.
No doubt. It's been good, man.
Close us out.
So look, the whole idea of this channel is we want you to get value. We want you to think. We want you to be critical. And you can also be critical of the thoughts and opinions we have, because we don't proclaim to be journalists. We're just simply two business owners that have different political views and different points of view. And we also, have things in common too, because as we get to know each other and we look past our differences, we know that what we have in common is our love for Christ. We also have in common our love for family. And we also have in common that we want to be longevity biohackers that live a good quality, vivacious, life with vitality. And so we can come together on that. And when we disagree, we can be respectful of our disagreements and still hear each other's point of view and really get value from each other. And so if that's something you value, definitely give us a like, subscribe, comment, interact. And we look forward to continue to bring you good content and good value. Chris, it's always been great, man. Anything that you want to say in closing?
Nope. Respect to you, Len. Have a phenomenal week, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Have a good one, sir.
Take care.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.